get started.
Excellent. Thank you, Seth. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town Board special meeting of March 30th, 2021. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Present.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Here.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Here.
Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now going to move on to privilege of the floor. I'm going to open privilege of the floor. I did receive one emailed comment, which I will read at this time, and then I will open the floor up to other comments if they exist. So this email was submitted by Valerie Iacovangelo of 1365 Van Antwerp Road. Valerie writes, I spoke with Brian Backus about my concerns. I'm against the future setting up of a civilian review board on page 21 for the reason that nothing should ever interfere with a police officer's right to a fair trial in a court of law. Review boards should not be the judge and jury or have the power to discipline an officer. When a police officer is in a situation where he needs to protect the lives of others and protect his own life, he needs to know his own constitutional rights will not be violated. Also, the opening story about policing was out of line and historically incorrect and biased against the police. How about some statements about how police officers helped them or protected them? How about some balance? And that concludes that emailed letter. So I will open up privilege of the floor to anyone who is joining us who wishes to speak at this time. And again, if there's anyone joining us who wishes to speak at this time, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We're going to move on to our one resolution for the evening. Before I make a motion to consider this resolution, I will have Elena Finnan. I believe you're on the line. Elena, if you could explain which edits have been made. So we know that nothing materially has changed. However, the format has changed. So I'll let you explain those changes.
Sure. So the format has changed to better, I guess, implement a plan versus the report from the collaborative. So there are two separate documents. The collaborative was created through Executive Order 203, and they were tasked with reviewing several police department policies, procedures, practices, and putting together recommendations for the town officials based on their review of those policies and procedures. And based on their experiences and knowledge as to the Niskayuna community. So that collaborative, I believe, has been working since November. They've been working hard and they put together several recommendations and a very detailed report for the town board and the town supervisor's office that's been under review since March. We had a public hearing on that also as required by the executive order. And based on that report basically provided the framework for the plan going forward. So it's essentially a two-step process. All of the legwork leading to those recommendations has been done up until this point in time, but how do we proceed going forward to make sure that those recommendations are in fact implemented and not just a piece of paper? So that document, the report, again, is separate from the plan, but really forms the basis for the plan itself. And in fact, every single recommendation that was made by the collaborative is contained within the plan that the town board is considering this evening, and the plan that will be submitted to the state. The plan itself also has responses to those recommendations based on feedback provided by the Niskayuna Police Department, current efforts. I know the current police chief has already begun researching and working to implement some of these recommendations as early as possible. So that is also reflected within the plan to show what work has already been done and what work still needs to do. The resolution that the town board is considering this evening also sets forth calling for a implementation task force, which is part of the implementation plan itself. So that basically will just get the ball rolling to ensure that these recommendations are being worked through thoroughly and immediately. I think that that kind of sums everything up, but if there's any particular questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Elena, and thank you for all the last minute work that you put into producing this document.
No problem.
Thanks. Okay, does anyone have any questions pertaining to the reformatting? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to Resolution 2021-76, sponsored by Supervisor Syed and Councilman Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving the Town of Niskayuna Reform Reinvention Collaborative Plan for submission to the state.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
So I have a few things to say. I'm sorry, Rosemary, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bill.
First off, I think it's only proper that we thank all the members and all the actual citizens from our community and the efforts that they've put forth for this report and plan. And they've spent a lot of time and a lot of hours on this, and I personally want to thank them. I also want to thank all my council members for their work on this plan. And sort of speaking to what Elena was saying, that this has been on the Police and Public Safety Committee agenda ever since its inception, the reform and reinvention, and it will continue to be on there. And the implementation of that will also be on our committee agenda every single month. And as Elena said, we're also going to have another committee, a task force put together for the implementation. So those things are going to be discussed at a minimum on a monthly basis, and even more often than that. So this plan will be continued to be worked on and put into place, and our residents will be able to follow all of that through our meetings or by contacting myself, the chief, supervisor, or any of our town board members, so that they know where we are at with the implementation of the plan. So again, just want to thank all the members that served on the committee and all their hard work for putting this together.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Yeah, I would like to reiterate, of course, the thanks to all the collaborative members who spent countless hours working on this. We're very grateful for your work. Also, I just wanted to say that the relationship between law enforcement and the people they serve and protect is a key component of community safety and effective policing. It's the very foundation for public confidence in our criminal justice system. In Niskayuna, we're really blessed to have a collaborative of stakeholders, including people of color and police officers, committed to strengthening that relationship based on mutual respect for public safety and the dignity, value, and rights of every individual. It's imperative that we hear and heed those voices. And with that in mind, I note that the revised construct of the implementation task force currently before us provides for fewer opportunities to appoint people of color to serve and to assist in the implementation of the collaborative plan. As of this past Friday, the implementation task force was slated to have 5 civilian members, and the resolution and the plan currently before us only provides for 3. So I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution and the reference plan for the implementation task force to provide for 5 community stakeholders instead of 3. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or there are more comments to be made.
I will happily second that, Rosemary. I don't think that the intention of anyone was to limit the input of people of color. So I just questioned, I didn't, whether or not that was a typo that they would have two. Bill and Yasmin would both have two, but if everyone's comfortable with that, I didn't make any sort of motion or anything. I just questioned it.
Oh,
the other day.
wonderful.
Oh, great. Okay. So I
Wonderful.
think that's a wonderful idea, Rosemary.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much. So, however we want to handle that.
Sure. So I will take your motion. So the motion is to add 2 additional members to, it is the
To
section.
go back to our original language that
Yep.
both you and Councilman McPartlin have a seat on the committee and then also have an appointment.
Yep. Okay. So the motion
But
to,
there's nothing in there that says the people appointed have to be people of color, Rosemary. I just want to make
No.
it clear.
No,
that-
no,
oh,
no.
okay. Well,
I
but
was
you
just-
had a
I
very
was-
strong statement related to that, so I just want to
No,
make
no,
sure
no.
it's clear.
I was noting that by going from 5 to 3, we were, thereby diminishing or it just provided for less opportunity overall for.
Okay, but that's a pretty big assumption. So I'm not comfortable with that assumption, but I'm certainly supportive of your motion.
I appreciate that. It's not an assumption though. 3 is less than 5. So,
Right, but 3 is less than 5 is more than whatever, and nobody at any point is saying if they're people of color, they're men, they're women, so.
no, just if we
Yep.
go to 5, it provides for more people in general and certainly an opportunity for more people of color. Just by numbers. So thank you for going along with that.
okay. So it was a motion to amend the second further resolved clause to now read after town attorney or his or her designee and 5 community stakeholders. So that's the amendment. Each town board member, and I will strike with the exception of the town supervisor and the chairperson of public safety committee. So it will read each town board member should suggest 1 individual for appointment. Is that the correct motion?
That's
Okay.
correct. And so it's there, and it's also referenced obviously in the resolution and then in the plan, that same mirrored language.
Okay. And Councilwoman McGraw seconded.
Yes.
All right. So on the motion, on the amendment, will the clerk please call the roll? I think you're mute, Michelle.
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes on the amendment.
Okay, so the amendment passes. Do we have any further comments before I move on to voting on the resolution as amended? I would just like to read from the guidebook that was provided to us from the state, and I think it perfectly sums up what we understand this point in time to be. And it states, going forward, after the plan is adopted, there will still be important work to do. You will need to implement the plan and communicate progress reports and metrics to the public. You will need continuously to monitor and respond to community concerns with the police. Public engagement should not end on April 1, 2021. A collaborative is an important step in your continual process of building, maintaining, and strengthening the relationship between your police department and your community. And that is exactly what our mentality is at this point in time. And I'm proud of the work that was born out of the collaborative. I'm proud of the implementation plan that we put together to make sure that we actualize the recommendations that were put forth. I'm incredibly grateful to all the town board members who are here tonight, who are, I know, supportive of this plan and are going to be supportive of the progress that we make going forward. Thank you especially to the collaborative members for all of the tireless efforts that you put towards putting this plan together. Are there any further comments? Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll on the motion as amended?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Without any further business to take up this evening, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned for the evening. Thank you all so very much. Have a wonderful night.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.